This morning we will be observing the Lord's Suppers, but we're not going to do it right at this moment. If you have the order of service that's on the website, you'll see that we're doing the Lord's Supper right now. But so keep it handy, and we will observe it in my sermon, all right? Right now I want to show you something, though. What I want to show you is this right here is my favorite shirt. A lot of you men know what I'm talking about, right? You have a favorite shirt. Now, it is a shirt that is comfortable. It's well worn. It's got holes, all right? So it qualifies as a favorite shirt. In fact, I've got a new hole back here that I just put in it about a month ago, all right, putting it on. But it still functions. It is still so very soft. Now, you know, I guess this could be repaired. You know, have you seen anybody have a patch on that really was a functioning patch, not a decorative patch? I mean, we just don't use it. When shirts wear out, and I know ladies, a lot of you may think that this is worn out, but it's not. It's barely broken in, all right? It's just now broken in. Because there's different kinds of cotton, right? I mean, there's cotton that, 10 washes and it's good, it's wonderful, and then some takes 50, and then some after 500 washes, they still feel like wool, right? All of the shirts say 100% cotton, but there's differences in cotton. But shirts, when they wear out, we just replace them, don't we? We don't patch them. We don't fix them. So I want you to keep this image in mind. It's comfortable. Sometimes we have clothes that are nostalgic. Maybe a special friend or a loved one gave it to us, and we keep that piece of clothing around. But it's very comfortable. You know, Jesus went to the temple. That's where we're going to be this morning in John chapter 2. If you have your Bibles, I'd like for you to turn there. We're going to pick it up at the end of the chapter, starting in verse 13. We're going to look at the new covenant. And that's what Jesus is doing. That's what I think he's trying to teach here in our passage in John chapter 2. So the temple, as you're opening your Bible, remember what the temple was. The temple wasn't just the center of religious life in Israel. It wasn't like the corner church where you go on Sundays. The temple was the center of life itself. It was, of course, the center of religious life, but it was also the center of social life for the people. It was the center of political life. Yes, even under the thumb of Rome, there was still some politics going on. There's always politics at all levels, folks. And there was politics in the temple. It was the center, of course, of worship, proclaiming God's word, and music. Folks, where would you go in Jesus' day in Jerusalem to hear music? You'd go to the temple. That's where music was played. It was the place for national celebrations. It was the place for national mourning as well. That is how important the temple was for the life of the people. So with that in mind, why don't we stand at the reading of God's word this morning? John chapter 2, beginning in verse 13. Follow along with me, if you will, please. It says, when it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove them all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you're going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. You may be seated. Jesus knew the temple. He knew the temple history. And I want to share just a quick review of temple history so that we can understand what Jesus was doing, what he was there, what the importance of what he did was all about. In the Old Testament, the foundation of the temple was put down as the children of Israel were liberated from Egypt, their slavery there. And in the wilderness, God commanded them to make a tabernacle, a place for God to meet the people at. The priests and the people could see a visible manifestation of his presence in the cloud and the pillar of fire. It was, if you will, it's oversimplification, but if you think of a tent church, all right? Instead of a beautiful fixed facility here, imagine all of this was tents. And we could take it down and we could move it. And whew, what a special team. They had the Levites to do that, right? The Levites, their job, carry the tabernacle a little further down the desert here in the wilderness and set it back up again. And that's what they did. And so the tabernacle is a place where God met the people, but it was also a place to remind the people that God was not tied to one geographic location. In the ancient Near East, it was believed that the gods were tied geographically to the different lands where the people lived, so that if you moved or even traveled from one area to another, you had to find out what the gods were, and you had to make sure you appeased those gods. It would be much like if you traveled to another country today. You better know the rules of that country, because there's different leaders, there's different rules, a different government, and you better follow the new rules. And God was trying to say, look, I am everywhere. That's the kind of God I am. That's the kind of God that you worship. And so the children of Israel took the tabernacle into the promised land, and it moved around. Even in the Old Testament, it was never static in one place until God told the people to build a tabernacle. David assembled all of the building materials there on Mount Zion, a place where he had captured. He had taken the city of the Jebusites, conquered it, and they renamed it Jerusalem. And it was there that his son Solomon built the temple, a magnificent edifice, a magnificent place of worship for God to meet the people. And it stood there for several hundred years until the Babylonians came and sacked the city and leveled the temple. And for 70 years, the people were without a temple. They'd been taken away to exile. And when they came back, they finally rebuilt the temple. And those who were there that remembered Solomon's temple cried. Now, scholars debate exactly why the people who remembered Solomon's temple cried at the new temple. I tend to think they were a little underwhelmed because the new temple wasn't anything like Solomon's. Not the grandeur, not the beauty. It paled in comparison. Speed forward a couple hundred more years until we get to King Herod of Christmas Day fame, okay? That King Herod. King Herod ordered a rebuilding of the temple. Now, Herod was ruthless and a horrible individual, but he was a good politician, and one of the things that he did well was he had a tremendous amount of buildings that he erected all throughout the land, and one of them was the temple. He changed it so much so that many people call the temple a third temple instead of the second temple. And that's where Jesus went. And that's where Jesus saw what was going on. And I think he couldn't help but remember his Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. As the people in the Old Testament time period, as they looked at the temple, they said, you know, that's where God is. And God is with us, and we're good. And they began to look at the temple. As long as the temple is there, we're safe. In fact, Jeremiah spoke about much of this. You who say the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, their trust had shifted from God to the physical building. Their faith was in the building. It's still there. You know what? I sin in my life. I don't think I'm that bad. I'm not the best person in the world, but you know, the temple's still there, so I'm good. And in fact, there was problems throughout the whole nation. And I think the nation began to say, you know what? We got problems. We're not perfect, but the temple is still there, so we're good. God sent prophets to tell them, to warn the people, look, your trust is misplaced. Don't trust the building. Trust me. And the people would not heed, would not change what they were doing. And that's why God sent the Babylonians in. And as Jesus came to the temple here this day, he came and he saw that there were problems in the temple. This is not working. He saw, instead of a place of worship, he found an H-E-B, didn't he? He found a grocery store instead of a place where you could have spiritual healing and find the forgiveness of sins. That was the place of the temple, wasn't it? That's where sins were forgiven. The leaders of the day thought that Sins were forgiven in a geographic location called the temple. And that's why they had gone out to see John the Baptist. Because what did John the Baptist say? John the Baptist said, repent for the remission of your sins and be baptized here so that you'll signify that. And the leaders came out and they were thinking, forgiveness of sins happens back at the temple, not here at the Jordan. What are you doing? Forgiveness of sins knows no geographic boundary. Jesus is saying you need something new. That's the teaching of the cleansing of the temple. John puts it here at the first of his gospel. He wants to start his gospel off with a bang. Early in chapter 2, it's the changing of water to wine. Miracles. Listen to this man. He's doing fantastic miracles. He is the Son of God. He is like God himself. And now the meaning of his message is here. Something new is needed. Something new is needed. Who gives you the authority to do this? What sign is there, Jesus? Show a sign. They didn't want to see a sign like water turned back into wine. They wanted to know the authority. Show us the authority. And Jesus said, I'll give you this, the sign of Jonah. 3 days. Tear down this temple, and in 3 days, I'll build it back again. Jesus, 46 years? Hello, all right. Now it was a few years before that the temple proper itself had been completed. But the grounds around the temple, they were still working on, and they would work on it, which, well, if I understand government the way government works, I think the estimation was another 10 more years, because we know that it took 40 more years for them to finish the grounds. I think you multiply it by 4, and you get to how long it's going to take to finish it. Jesus said, he was talking about what? After his resurrection, the disciples remembered these words. He was talking about his body. I'm going to be crucified. I'm going to be buried. And on the third day, I am going to rise from the grave. Something new is needed. The forgiveness of sins isn't tied to a geographic location. It is going to be anywhere where anyone can call upon the name of the Lord. And they will be able to receive the forgiveness of sin and will find wholeness and peace, fulfillment, abundance, and focus and direction in this life. That's what Jesus did. How is your house? I want you to look here in the worship center. We have been posting so many pictures online, but if you're here, look at this is a wonderful place. This place of worship now. How's your house? And I don't mean your house at home, okay? I don't mean the laundry piled up on the sofa because it's clean, right? That's the clean laundry. The dirty laundry stays on the bedroom floor. I know how this goes, all right? And if I want it to change, I'll do something about it, right? So that's just the way that works too. If I don't like the way things are done, hey, I can do it myself. I'm not talking about your house. I'm talking about the house and the home of your life. What is your life like? So often we can separate in our lives church from life itself. Church from the rest of our lives. We come to church, we're comfortable. I still think we have the most comfortable seats of any worship place in the city, right? You can get many good naps in my sermons right here at Second Baptist Church, all right? That's a little advertisement we can put out there. We get comfortable. I'm not perfect, Pastor, but how are you doing spiritually? How's your spiritual walk? We ask about that. How's your spiritual walk? I'm doing okay. I could be better, but I'm doing okay. I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking about all of your life. Because you see, your spiritual walk affects your mental status. Your spiritual walk also should be affecting your emotional status. It should be affecting your social interaction with others. It should be affecting your walk with Jesus. It is all interconnected. And if it's not, your house is out of order. It needs to be integrated with one another. So how's your house? Is it where it's supposed to be? Or is it time for something new? Jesus came to give you new life, to give you a new relationship with God, to give us a new covenant. When we talk about new covenant, often people think about the New Testament, and that's correct. That's not wrong. But there's another aspect of the new covenant. A covenant is an agreement between two parties. Our agreement with God and us is a covenant. My agreement with my wife is called a marriage. All right, that's the marriage covenant. We have a covenant with God. That's how we relate. That's how we describe the relationship. And Jesus went to the temple and said, "This is not working. We need a new covenant." And that's what he ushers in. He tells us this the night before his execution in the upper room with his disciples. He took the bread. Why don't you go ahead and take your bread now? I want to read the passage out of 1 Corinthians 11. This is the bread of the new covenant. The wine is the blood of the new covenant that Jesus has for us. Listen to these words here. The Apostle Paul wrote, "For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread." So take the bread. "And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me.'" So let's take the bread. Let's eat the bread now. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup. So take your cup. Saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me." So take the cup. And drink it. Then Paul writes, "For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." Jesus came to bring us a new relationship. And by taking the Lord's Supper, we're telling Jesus we remember. That's what it means that it is a memorial. It simply says we remember. And that's what we always want to do, is to remember what Jesus did for us. Now, let me shift gears just a moment here. Let me shift from us as individuals. Let's shift to the church. How is the church house doing? Now, of course, we've said it looks beautiful, but no, how are we at integrating in our church all that we should be doing? And I'm going to have two suggestions here for us this day, two reminders, really. There's nothing new, but I think there's a couple of things that we need to emphasize. One, you hear me emphasize all the time, and you're going to continue to hear me emphasize it. But the first one is this. The first one is prayer. Now, since we have had the pandemic, since we have not been able to gather here at the church, I've still been able to meet with various folks. And I have been asking, one of the questions I ask is Second Baptist Church, do you consider that a church, a praying church? And they look at me for a second and they want to give the answer yes, but they understand, when I think about a praying church, this isn't a praying church. And I'm in agreement with that. Now, it's not that we don't pray. We do pray. We've already prayed here in our church service. We're going to pray more. We have Wednesday night prayer service, all right? It's a Bible study, and we pray on Wednesday nights. We have a prayer team. We have a prayer room. We pray. But I don't think that I would say that God has brought us together as a bunch of people who are we're avid about our prayer life. I don't think we are. And there's nothing wrong with that, folks. There's nothing wrong. I'm not trying to scold us and saying that this is bad. And I'm not going to tell us that we need to get there. Because I believe what Jesus does for the local churches, he brings believers together and makes it a body the way he wants that local body to function. And so I may be the ear of the body, okay? And my wife, well, she's the heart, okay? I mean, she's so sweet, right? And somebody else may be an arm, and somebody else may be, I'm probably the stomach, not the ear, okay? That's what I am. I mean, we need it. And so what I mean is that some churches have just the prayer people. And those are the praying churches. Most churches, I would say, are not praying churches. They pray, but they're not praying churches. So what I'm calling for, folks, isn't for us to become a praying church, but what I am saying is that we need to pray more. And we need to pray more fervently, more deeply. And I think everybody would agree with that. I don't think when we get to the end of our lives, we're going to be saying, you know what, if I just hadn't spent so much time in prayer, I think my life would have been more full. I've never heard of anybody say that. I have heard them say the opposite. I wish I would have spent more time in prayer. I even heard Billy Graham say that a few years before he passed away. I wish I would have spent more time reading the Bible and in prayer. Folks, I'm calling for us to pray more and more fervently. Second thing, it's for us to do our mission. And I preach about this about once every 3 months. What is the mission of the church? God uses Second Baptist Church to develop disciples of Jesus Christ. One of the things that's the same right outside the worship center is that letters, developing disciples, right above where the cry room is. It is there to remind us always that we're to be developing the disciples, and there's two aspects of developing disciples. First, the first aspect of developing disciples is that we need to share Jesus with those who do not know him. We need to share the message of salvation with those who need salvation. And there are thousands in our community, yes, even in Corpus Christi, who don't know Jesus as their Savior. And there are billions around this world that don't know Jesus as their Savior. And Jesus in the Great Commission, you heard Janet read it in Spanish, and we know it in English because it means we're to go out and make disciples, to develop disciples. Our task is to go out and tell people about Jesus. Pastor, I'm not good at that. You can do it. Because you don't have to remember the Roman road or the 4 spiritual laws or the steps to peace with God. You don't have to have gone through our program of Can We Talk, and there's nothing wrong with the program, folks. A program is doing something in an organized fashion as opposed to doing something in an unorganized fashion, which I find highly inefficient, all right? So I'm not down on programs. When you evangelize somebody, when you're telling them about God so that they know God better, they can get closer to God. They may not get saved when you're sharing with them. That's okay. Having them understand more about Jesus, to understand the Holy Spirit a little bit better, you have done your job. That's what it means to evangelize. Of course, we want to be able to share how to receive Christ as their Savior. But sometimes folks need to take steps to get there. They can't take the giant leap. And our task is to tell others about Jesus always. Always be doing that. So that it eventually becomes so natural, it's a part of who you are and part of your speech. That's part of what it means to develop disciples. First part. Second part is this. The second part is once you've received Jesus as your Savior, we as Baptists, we were terrible about this. We didn't know what to do with you. Once we got you wet in the baptistry, we knew to give you a towel and slap you on the back, say, all right, head on down there, Well, we'd give you some offering envelopes, right? Hey, we can't forget that. Because back in the 60s and 70s, we knew how to count nickels and we knew how to count noses. And that's what we were good at. All right, we have this much money and we had these many noses baptized, right? But it doesn't tell you when the person has become a disciple. In fact, when do you become a disciple? We've talked about this round and round as a staff at our staff meetings. How do we help make disciples? How do we know we're getting them there? I don't think you ever become a full disciple. I always think there's room for more Jesus in your life, and that's what we want. We want more Jesus in your life. That's what Paul says in Galatians 4:19, to have more of Jesus in your life. And so it's a constant work. I'm here, the staff, we talk about this. How can we help you become better followers of Jesus? How can we help you help one another become better followers of Jesus? And then in turn, it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. You as a church, you help us. We're part of the church too as a staff. Help us become better followers of Jesus. And that's what it means to develop disciples of Jesus Christ. And we do it with our vision statement. That's how we implement it. We can't go all throughout our mission statement and all how the supporting words go with it. But we love God and we love people. And we love God by saying, Lord, whatever you want, that's who I will become if I'm not that person now. That's who I will continue to be if that is. And Lord, whatever you need me to do, that I will do. We say that very well on Sunday morning, but how about Tuesday morning? Or Wednesday afternoon or Friday evening? Do we still stay it? We need to love God always. And we need to love people the same way. to love people wherever you are. Whatever you need us to be, that's who we want to be. Paul said, I'll become all things to all people so that I might win some for Christ. And that's our goal. We're going to develop disciples with one another. We're going to love God and we're going to love people. Folks, do you see where we're going as a church? The remodel doesn't change any of that. We're going to keep being the people of God that He has called us to be. And if you're ready to get on board with what God is doing at Second Baptist, we invite you to do that. In a moment here, Chris and Kathy and the praise team will be back up here, and they're going to sing a hymn of invitation, which will also be our closing song. And I want to invite you, and we're going to do like we did when we regathered here a couple of months ago. I want to meet you back in the choir room. So I'm going to walk out of the worship center here. And if you're ready, you know what? I'm ready for Jesus, because my life, it's been comfortable. And you know, sometimes what goes wrong with comfortable is it's not comfortable anymore. I think one of the things that God has given to us in the 20th century, I know we're in the 21st century, but it's carrying on. I think recliners are dropped right out of heaven, okay? I think they are something that God has blessed our whole culture with. And I think most of us have had recliners long enough that we've had to replace them, right? We like them because they're comfortable, and they're comfortable as long as they're, well, until they're not comfortable anymore. A spring goes through and sticks you in the back or in some other spot of your anatomy, okay? Or the mechanism doesn't work anymore. It doesn't rock. It's time to what? To get a new one. Sometimes we get so comfortable in life, we're uncomfortable. And I think that, and I just pray that right now, if you don't know Jesus, that you are so uncomfortable that you realize it's time for Jesus to come in and give you a new life, to recreate you, to give you a new relationship with God. And if that's where you're at, I want you to meet me back in the choir room. I want to pray with you and talk with you about that. Others of you, time to join the church. Others of you may need to pray. Just go to the choir room. Online, there are ways to reach out. Reach out on the website. Just scroll down and click that button, and you will be able to connect with somebody. Call the church phone number, 361-994-0266, and someone will pray with you. Email us a prayer request. We will reach out to you. But don't let this day, this moment go by as God is speaking to you. Don't let it go by without your responding to Him. Let me pray with you right now. Lord God, come to us now and renew us. Let the renewal and the remodel of the worship center, let that give us a craving for a remodel in our lives as well. Come, Lord Jesus. Encourage those that need to reach out to you, to call upon your name, in order to reach out to the church so that they know that they have people who are ready to walk with them. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.